The city of Surrey is joining places like Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal by having its own municipal police service. November 29th, Surrey Police Service takes command, the latest step in the transition with the RCMP. So, what does this mean for you if you call 911, if you want a background check, if you want to pick up lost property? On this episode of Ask SPS, we're learning more, and we are joined by Staff Sergeant Lindsey Houghton, who is the Media Relations Officer for SPS. And you will be seeing more of Lindsey on TV and in the media as SPS becomes a police of jurisdiction and is able to speak about policing files. So Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us. And I've got to ask you, if SPS is going to become the police of jurisdiction, what's the easiest way to explain that?
Thanks, Tim. The easiest way to explain it is SPS will be taking over the operational command of policing for the city of Surrey.
So if I need to file, say, a report to police, it's the same non-emergency number, I know, 599-0502, but would it be the same civilian staff, or are they changing too?
Yeah, it's the same non-emergency line. Obviously, in case of emergency, phone 911. Police, regardless of where you are in Surrey, will show up. Now, it may be SPS officers, it might be RCMP officers, or a blend of the two. On the civilian side, we're working very closely with the city of Surrey and all of the civilians to transition them over so that they can support Surrey Police Service like they have been the RCMP for many years.
If you're involved in a policing file right now, is there going to be any interruption?
There will be no interruption. In fact, there will be a continuity of service across all of the investigations, the evidence, support for victims. People will not see any change behind the scenes. All of that work is happening right now. We're continuing to have discussions and working with the RCMP to make sure that there will be no impact for anyone in Surrey.
Working with the RCMP, so I know it's not as simple as you flip a switch and the transition is done. So the RCMP is still going to be around for a while.
Yeah, the RCMP will be around for a while. Over the next couple of years, Surrey Police Service members will be onboarding. We'll be recruiting more and more experienced officers and new officers through the Justice Institute. They'll be graduating and going out onto the front lines and responding to 911 calls and interacting with the public. As that happens and more SPS officers are brought on board, there'll be a reduction in time of RCMP officers. That'll be on the front lines as well as behind the scenes in some of our investigative and our support units.
So if somebody needs to visit the police, say for a background check, for fingerprinting, maybe to pick up lost property, it's going to be the same building, but is there any different process, or does it just look different?
It'll just look different. The Surrey Police Service signs will be out front, the same district offices. Where the RCMP have their detachment, it'll now be the Surrey Police Service headquarters. There'll be no change. If you need a records check, you need fingerprints done, come to the same place.
Other big cities have already done this, having a local police service. So what are some of the advantages?
Some of the advantages are that the Surrey Police Services are accountable to the citizens of Surrey. Our budget process, our policies, we're all managed by the Surrey Police Board and not somewhere else, essentially. We'll be working very closely on a lot of community engagement initiatives. We want to hear feedback from the public, and we've already engaged the public through several rounds of community consultations, and that helps build the Surrey Police Service. We want this to be a homegrown agency that's of the people and for the people.
Lindsey, it sounds like from November 28th to 29th, it will look similar in a lot of ways. Now, as you mentioned, this is just one step in the process. So what kind of changes can we expect in the months ahead?
Well, in the months ahead, you'll see more Surrey Police Service vehicles like the one behind us. You'll see more Surrey Police Service officers, certainly in the city centre, Whalley district, as well as the Newton district. And you'll see Surrey Police Service members in our traffic section out on the roads in the entire city of Surrey, our car 67, the mental health car, and many other community initiatives. So over time, you will see more and more Surrey police officers out in the community, whether that's the front line driving police cars, responding to 911 calls, or doing the myriad of police work that happens in a big city police department.
Someone might be curious how long this transition is going to take, but there's no set timeline at this point.
No, there's no set timeline. We want to make sure this is done right. We are working very closely and collaboratively with the RCMP. These things take time, and a lot of it will depend on how how many recruits we can get in and through the police academy, how many experienced officers, but there's also some sensitivities around some of the investigations. We don't want, and no one wants, any of the investigations to have any gaps in investigative quality. We want to make sure that all the files remain as fulsomely investigated as possible, and we can't just offboard officers because that will potentially have a risk. And we don't want that. And so the transition will take as much time as it needs to take, and we'll be working very closely with the RCMP for however long that is.
So Lindsey, if people are looking for more information on this transition, where can they go?
They can go to our website. It's surreypolice.ca/hello SPS. We'll be providing information on how the transition's progressing and answer a lot of questions that people might have. There's a lot of FAQs on there, a lot of answers about the policing model and our budgetary process, the police board. It has a lot of information, probably more information than people will ever want to know about what Surrey Police Service is doing in their community and what the transition looks like.
Well, Lindsey, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Tim.
That is Staff Sergeant Lindsey Houghton joining us on Ask SPS. If you have any questions or want to learn more, visit surreypolice.ca. Right on the homepage, you'll see a link for the questions and the answers that are available to you. For Ask SPS, I'm Tim James.